All right, so this was a comparison that a lot of people were actually interested in. I was kind of interested in this one myself here. So we did the S10 yesterday, and today we're going to do the S20. Came out in 2020, and then we have the S25 just came out. So you guys can immediately see the design upgrade here from all these years. The thing that will stand out the most is one, Samsung is still going with this glossy back. In 2020. They've now moved to the matte finish, so you don't really get those fingerprint smudges. And then also, you do have a completely different camera design here. One of the main complaints with the S20 series is everyone says this phone is either ugly or it looks boring. So what do you guys think? How do you guys think the S20 has aged design-wise? And yeah, the thing that kind of stood out to me is that the S20 appears to be a little bit taller here because it is like a bit more narrow. The S25 is a bit wider. And as far as how the phones feel in the hand, I still think the S20 feels a lot more comfortable. Samsung went with these really kind of sharp, squared off sides. So, I mean, it's not uncomfortable, but it just, just feels kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, like spiky, I guess. But yeah, so that is basically it. You will be losing SD card support. So the S20 does have SD card support, and you will be losing that. They both have IP68 dust and water resistant. And that's pretty much it as far as the overall design. Let's talk about the displays here. Both phones have a 6.2-inch display. They're dynamic AMOLED displays. There are some slight differences here with these panels here, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So the S20 actually does have a 1440p display. It's dynamic AMOLED again, 120 Hz HDR10 plus, only 1200 nits peak brightness, and then it is a 563 for the PPI. Now, the limitation with the S20's display is that you can't run it at 120 Hz at 1440p. That's the only limitation with this panel here, and it is a curved panel as well. But it still looks really nice. You guys can see it's a much taller display. And on the S25, Samsung now has the dynamic LTPO display, so that'll help with battery life. It's 120 Hz HDR10 plus, and it's much brighter. So if you're outside and it's really sunny, the S25 is much brighter at 2600 nits, and it's a 1080p panel, 416 for the PPI. The bezels are a lot slimmer, as you guys can see here. Samsung has got these bezels to just be crazy. It really pops out more so at the bottom. But yeah, color wise, the S20's display is just a little bit more, it has that more vivid kind of, popping look with the colors for sure. The S25 is close, even with the vividness slider turned all the way up. It still doesn't quite look like the older displays. But besides that, those are pretty much the upgrades, guys. I guess if you want to say a flat display is an upgrade, that's there. The max brightness is there. The LTPO will help with battery life. But besides that, guys, it's not a crazy difference, guys. Like aesthetically, yeah, the bezels are slimmer and stuff like that. But yeah, the display upgrade it's nothing really crazy, and you can technically say it's a little bit of a downgrade here because it's not 1440p. But again, most people have that S20 most people who have the S20 are not running it in 1440p anyway. So yeah, so those are basically the upgrades. All right, so let's talk about the specs a little bit more in the software. So you will get a 7-year pledge with the S25. The S20 is the last majorOS update was actually Android 13, and it was One UI 5. You do have the Snapdragon 865 on here, 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM. And then on the S25, we have the new Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, and that is also 128 gigs and 12 gigs of RAM. When it comes to just your general like animations and app loading, the S20 still does a fantastic job. It's still like super smooth. But yeah, it is like a second or two slower than the S25 for sure. But I'm not sure if most people will really notice that. As you guys can see, it's not like it's super slow or anything like that. Your general applications, everything is still very smooth. Now, when we talk about benchmarking and we talk about, running these, Geekbench scores and stuff like that, scrolling, still very smooth on the S20. Honestly, one of my favorite pickups from last year. I got this one for like $100. It was an AT&T locked version. I mean, the performance is pretty incredible. But when you do come in here and then you check out these benchmarks and stuff like that, you know, it's like it's a big upgrade when it comes to looking at benchmarks and scores and stuff. But in real life, it's not like a crazy difference. What else? The 3D Mark, I'll show you guys that. So you guys can see for power users and like gamers and stuff like that, this is a fantastic upgrade. You can see 34, almost 35 frames, 6.64 frames, and then you guys can see 5 to 8, 16 to 48. So overall, like for power users, this is a great upgrade, right? Now the gaming performance is really not bad on the S20 here. It actually is pretty good, and this chipset is actually pretty efficient. We can still play PUBG at 90 frames and it runs really well. I don't really have any type of overheating problems or performance problems with the S20 here. Now the S25 will do, like I said, a much better job. So if you're more of a heavier gamer, you can play PUBG at 120 frames. You can play Genshin, at much better frame rates, Call of Duty, etc., emulators. But like I said, if you're not somebody who's like a heavy gamer, you really won't see too much of a difference in performance. But like I said, the overall speed and animations on the S20 are not really that bad. Let's check out these speakers at max volume. We'll start with the S20. So there is a slight difference here with the overall bass quality. The S20 actually still sounds it's actually not a big of a difference as I thought it was. The S25 is slightly louder, but the S20 is still pretty loud. It's just lacking a little bit in the bass department there, but actually not that bad on the S20. The fingerprint scanner has remained unchanged on both of these, and they work really well. Face unlock works very well. And the biggest thing I feel like you'll notice between these two phones is honestly probably the AI stuff for people who are really into it. If not, then you probably don't care. The new One UI design and animations and stuff like that. But besides that, you have your circle to search. The Galaxy AI stuff is all here as well. So if you want to take advantage of, the Galaxy AI stuff. But again, Samsung will be charging for the Galaxy AI stuff. We just don't know what they will be charging for and how much. So, it's kind of unfortunate, but it's just something to look out for if you are considering it. So far with these comparisons with the base model, I haven't seen a big positive reaction with these camera comparisons as far as the quality difference. It's really been like split down the middle. A lot of people just aren't impressed. So let me know what you guys think about the cameras. We have a 50 megapixel standard on the S25. It's a 10 megapixel telephoto with 3 times optical. You can go up to 30 times zoom. And then we have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. We do have 8K 24 and 30 video with a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. The S20 here has a 12 megapixel standard. It actually has a 64 megapixel telephoto, but it's only 1.1 optical zoom, and this is a 3 times hybrid, and then it goes up to 30 times. 12 megapixel ultra wide, and it's 8K 24, 10 megapixel selfie, shoots in 4K 60. Honestly, I think the most impressive thing here is really the battery life on the S25. The battery life on this phone has been really, really good, guys. I've been really impressed with the standby time. And, you know, with these smaller devices, you always expect kind of like mediocre battery life. But this is actually very good battery life here. So we have actually a 4,000 milliamp hour battery on both. Samsung has not touched the charging at all. It's been a very long time since they touched charging speeds on these base models. It's 25 watts, and then it's wireless and reverse wireless charging on both. So they both kind of charge at the same speeds. And yeah, it's, to me, 25 watts these days is just kind of slow. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The battery life is a lot better than the S20 by far, even if you put a new battery in here. But yeah, so what do you guys think? Are you guys thinking about making this upgrade? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.